right, everybody. Today's episode is something that is a topic I honestly get asked about a ton. And it's a really important one because there is a lot of context to it. But today's topic is about, that's right, you guessed it, it is cyber certifications. In cyber, there really is a certification for pretty much everything. There's everything from pen testing to GRC relationships to, now even social engineering certifications. There's really a certification for pretty much every avenue in the cybersecurity world. Now, if you've done your own digging, you're probably very well aware that this is a mountain of information. This is a mountain of certifications. And really, where do you start? But maybe more importantly, is it of benefit to you? And, kind of to make a long answer a short one, it depends. And really, we're going to dig into that here in this episode today. Okay, really, we're going to dive right in here. And the number one question that I really want you all to ask yourself while we're talking about certifications in particular is, what are you wanting out of this? Because that's a really big question that you have to answer before we are able to really dive in deeper. If you can honestly sit here and say, I want more knowledge, more ability, and to be more capable, you're ready. You're ready to look into whatever you want to do. But honestly, if your answers deviate towards, I want to prove everything to someone else, or I want to get a raise, or, maybe I just want to be able to have the prestige and the knowledge and I want to put on LinkedIn, hey, look what I did, look what I accomplished, and you want to brag, you're probably going to have a harder time with the certifications because your heart's not in it, as well as the fact that I'm going to be honest here. They don't necessarily translate into those things if that is what you were looking for. So the first question here, really the elephant in the room, is will a cyber certification translate into a job for you? And the short answer is not necessarily. A lot of individuals really struggle when they first get into this because they realize, I need to get my Security Plus. I need to get my CYSA Plus. I need to look into getting my CISM, CISSP. So many of these they believe are going to translate directly into getting a job. And if you're looking for an introductory job, yeah, they can help. But if you're thinking, I'm going to go get my CISSP and I'm going to become a CISO, things don't translate that way. And you need to understand that there is a massive amount of progression that most individuals do not see related to the capabilities that lead to some of these executive positions. It's not just the certification. So, short answer, no. A certification does not equal a job opportunity for you. It shows that you're capable for some jobs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have it and people are going to come out of the woodwork offering you these jobs. Expanding on that idea a little bit more, I want you to understand what a certification truly is. A certification is not an indication that you are an expert. If that's what you're thinking, I'm going to be very honest with you that you're wrong. You're wrong. Because if you are trying to say, I'm an expert in this, you better well have aced that exam with 100% no questions missed at all. I don't know of anyone that's ever done that. And in all reality, that's not what your goal is anyway. You are trying to signal your capabilities, not the fact that you think you're an expert. As soon as you start going into areas and start saying, hey, I have a CISSP, a CISM, I have my Security Plus, you should be begging me to come and work for you, you're really losing already, mainly because you need to understand that those are signals to your capabilities, not what you are actually going to be doing. The next item we're going to discuss here is the HR barrier. This is one of those items where a cybersecurity certification is worth it because a lot of times HR is going to be your first hurdle to get over into any job at all. And a lot of times, at least in my experience, HR doesn't really know what's going on in the cyber world. They don't know what skills you have, what's needed. So really, a lot of times they're going to end up relying on these industry certifications. That's why so many introductory jobs in the cybersecurity realm are going to ask for Security Plus. That's a great avenue for you to be able to signal your capabilities into some of these introductory roles where you are going to gain more skills. So, in terms of an HR barrier, it's absolutely fantastic for you to signal your capabilities in that regard. So, in that vein, yes, these certifications are very worthwhile. Extending on that idea a little bit more, you have to understand that a lot of times some of these certifications are filtering mechanisms. These are things that are not really a good or bad indication of you. They're just a way for you to get past some of these filters and say, yes, I meet the minimum standards associated with these jobs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You might be way more capable than a certification tells you you are. You may not be as capable as a certification might think you are. But overall, really what you're doing is you're getting through, you have a ticket to ride, and you've passed that HR filter. So once again, a massive green checkbox there in the positive column. So at about this time, you're probably going, well, Devin, you're telling me that certs are really just a ticket to ride and a way to get through the HR filters. And in some ways, that's true. So what are they actually doing for me then? Are they actually worth it? Am I just playing the bureaucratic game? Well, no, they really do have some value here. So, what does a certification do for you? Well, the first thing that comes to mind, at least for me and in my experience, I have over 20 professional certifications. They give you structure. And that's really something that is worth its weight in gold when you look at the cyber realm. It gives you an understanding and a flow, a structure, a foundation to really build your understanding and your functionality on. And it does that in a way that it really does stack, and these skills continue to build onto each other as you do get to more advanced functions. Now, this one might be a little bit more of a personal opinion from me, as I have done hundreds of interviews and I've looked for individuals. A cybersecurity certification actually shows that you can start something, but more importantly, that you can end something. You've seen something through to the end. You've applied yourself. You're capable. You know how to actually move in that direction and really take that dedication to finish something up. And honestly, that's a huge signal for those cyber professionals that know what they're looking for. I would be absolutely remiss if I did not mention this here, but cybersecurity certifications have a tendency to help build one's confidence. Now, I think there's a razor's edge between having a confidence level associated with a certification and now you're going on LinkedIn posting to everyone and their dog that you're now the most capable cybersecurity individual ever because you just passed this certification and you can't believe that, the top Fortune 500 companies aren't coming at you already. Keep your ego in check, but there is a lot of confidence that can be built and that does evolve from understanding some of these things. Does it mean that you're an expert? In my experience, no way, it doesn't. But it does show that you're beginning those steps to become an expert, as well as the fact that usually the confidence that is built in being able to say, man, I just hit an industry standard benchmark, that's huge. And really, it enables those individuals to become better and better. All right, let's look at things a little bit on the other side of the spectrum here because I always like to make sure that I'm being transparent and you are seeing a full perspective. And really, now we're going to look at when is a cybersecurity certification not worth it to you? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of barriers to getting these certifications. There's a lot of high cost associated with these, and they're getting more expensive. There is a lot of time and resource allotment that you do have to invest into these. So really, we want to make sure that when you as a practitioner are actually getting into these certifications, are you doing it for the right reasons and is it going to be worthwhile for you overall? The first instance that we want to talk about is if you are getting a certification just to stack it on your resume and you don't have any proof or worse off, no purpose in having the certification, you might prove that you have the ability to go and pass the exam related to the subject material. But any true hiring manager in cybersecurity that's worth any bit of their value is going to be able to see through that. they're going to be able to look at you and say, you're collecting certifications. You're not actually working and adapting in these roles. So make sure that you're not a cert stacker, because it's actually a lot easier to pick those out when you see them on a resume than the individuals who are applying those and doing it. The next thing is make sure that you are getting the right certification for the job. You don't want to be going off and getting a project management certification if you're looking to become a cybersecurity analyst. You want to make sure that you're doing what you actually are wanting to extend your career in. If you want to become a cybersecurity analyst, start with your Security Plus, then the CYSA Plus, and then you can go into some of the more advanced, overall operational certifications that are going to show those abilities. If you want to be well-rounded, do it. There's a fantastic opportunity for you to do that. But make sure that you are signaling the direction you want to go in with the certifications that you are pursuing. All right, guys, this next one of win a cybersecurity certification is not worth it is a big one. And honestly, I see this very often. And you might actually fall into this category, and that's not wrong. I've been absolutely in this category before, if I'm being fully transparent. But that's when, are you pursuing a certification as a form of procrastination? And what I mean by that is, you are sitting here saying, I've got my eyes on a CISO role or a director role or something like that. So therefore, I'm not going to apply or jump into the cyber realm until I have my CISSP, my CISM, or things like that, or my ISSAP, or what have you, one of those advanced certifications. That is absolutely the wrong way to do it. You want the experience, you want that knowledge. Should you be pursuing those certifications? Yeah, if that's your goal, absolutely. But make sure that you're actually working in parallel, that you're doing exactly what you want to be pursuing in terms of certifications, but that you also have your overall work efforts and direction aligning with that on a daily work basis if that's open to you. Okay, for this next topic, I really want to kind of circle back on the overall costs of certifications, because previously you saw that I mentioned they're expensive. They're getting more expensive, as well as the fact that, not just from a monetary means, but a resource allocation means, you're having to put hundreds of hours into these certifications depending on which ones you're looking into or how many you're looking into. That's a pretty big investment, especially when you look at most individuals getting these are individuals who are working full time, have families, have a lot of other things on their plate. So therefore, you really need to make sure that you're doing what's best for you. So really, we want to make sure that when we're weighing the costs, we understand the whole cost associated with it before we start jumping into that. All right, moving beyond just the monetary costs associated with some of these certifications, as well as the fact that I'll quickly mention some of the top tier certifications are going to run you closer to $1,000, if not some of the higher end ones, like some of the SANS Institute items that you're going to possibly be looking at in the thousands of dollars. But really, what I also want to kind of deviate from in that monetary means is there's a lot of time commitment as well as some money commitment to maintaining these. You go and you get these certifications, that's not the end of the day. That's really just the beginning. Every single cycle, which is usually a 3-year period, when you do that, you actually have to show that you are maintaining your certifications. And that's done by a lot of educational efforts, from things from reading a book, writing articles that are contributing to the overall cybersecurity and info security realm, attending conferences, attending educational efforts and those things. And you have to meet a specific amount of hours for that. And I believe for the CISSP at the time of this recording, I believe it's 120 hours per cycle. So you're literally dedicating a full work week every year to making sure that you are maintaining your knowledge. And this is for good reason. We want to make sure that you as a practitioner maintain your knowledge and abilities in the overall realm. But that's also a very, very big commitment for you as you are having to dedicate your time and efforts in that direction for your professional life to come. This next side, I really like to kind of use my economist brain a little bit more because that's where I did my undergraduate studies was in economics. Really, you need to understand that there is a double cost to these certifications. Once again, we've already talked about the monetary, we've talked about some of the time commitment, but you also have to understand that there's an opportunity cost with this. So, for those of you that may not have ever had an economics course, an opportunity cost is the idea that you're giving up time while you're trying to pursue these other efforts, and that time you won't get back. You can never get enough time. There is basically, it's a finite resource that when it's gone, it's gone. You don't get more of it. So, you are choosing to actively utilize your time pursuing some of these certification efforts. So you want to make sure that you are really pursuing what's in your best interest and what's going to have a massive return on investment. So if you're unsure about it, or you don't really think, that this is going to be beneficial to you, I would challenge you to really think hard because the richest man in the world can't buy another minute of time in their life. All right, I really want to mention this here. And the other thing that we want to really make sure that you're aware of is certifications are not equal to battle scars. There is an honest and inherent truth with this in the system overall. The overall cybersecurity realm, you're really going to learn the most in this realm when you're in the trenches. You're going to be able to actually understand more. You're going to understand what happens when you're under pressure, when you're doing things, when you've actually been in the middle of real breaches, when you're part of a bridge that's going on and everyone's trying to coordinate efforts as you might be defending against attackers, or you might be trying to isolate machines, or you might be in the middle of an investigation. You might be working on all of these things at once. And that really kind of solidifies your abilities as a practitioner. No certification around is ever going to be able to actually synthesize and really make sure that you're aware of that until you've been able to actually live it. So be aware that battle scars, while they are scars and there are some issues that, kind of come from being in there, they're really going to be the best teaching mechanism for you as a true practitioner. And no certification will be able to do that. All right, I do want to add a couple of other items here as we do kind of wind down this conversation. And the first one with that is certifications are not the only route that you can go through to be able to get your experience. I've hired individuals in the past that have very little experience in terms of a certification or things, but their overall experience as a practitioner speaks volumes, as well as the fact that, maybe they've been through other roles that really have a massive appeal to me because that perspective is exactly what I need. Maybe someone was a financial analyst in a previous life, and that's going to be exactly what I need if I'm doing some PCI DSS. Maybe someone was a nurse in a previous life, and I need to understand some of the HIPAA and high tech regulations and things, and they are going to have a massive amount of benefit related to that. So, really, a lot of the practitioners who are going to be hiring and looking for individuals, they're going to look at those other experiences and they're going to say, this could be a massive benefit. So this is where those of you that may not have a cybersecurity background, that I hope this brings you a little bit of hope because overall, we're not looking for a lot of individuals that are, hey, I have a doctorate in cybersecurity and that's what we need. A lot of times we're looking for skill sets that are very diverse and capable, and we can bring those in as well. So there are more ways than one to get into the realm. All right, this is a question that I also get, and it's one I really wanted to bring up here as we are kind of winding this down. And a lot of people kind of reach out to me and say, hey, Devin, I really want to get this certification, but it's expensive and my work is not willing to pay for it. A lot of employers are paying for these and sometimes they're not. And especially in our current economic climate at the time of this recording, that's actually more common. And here's my answer that I can give from my personal experience. My first several certifications that I got as I was going into this realm, I actually paid for out of pocket. I was not making as much money back then. I had to budget for it. I had to allocate a lot of time in terms of staying up late and studying and trying to understand things as I was fairly new into the realm and I was really trying to make sure that I was understanding things. So I didn't have a lot of background to even fall upon. I was really trying to be a sponge. Would I do it again? 100%. I get it. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of dedication and it's a lot of sacrifice. If you're serious about wanting to get into the cybersecurity world, though, I'm going to be honest, it's one of the best investments you can make because it proves that you're willing to go in that direction, that you're capable, as well as the fact that it really does give a lot of benefit to you as an individual if you are the one making those efforts. All right, the last point I want to make here is I want you all to be very aware of snake oil salesmen. This is a big one, and I'm sad to say it, but the cybersecurity certification realm, it's the new area where everyone is going to be a salesperson and everyone is going to tell you why their masterclass is the best one around, why this certification is the one that you need to do, why I'm the best individual to teach you all of these things, and I will guarantee you all that. I could go on and on. Basically, it's a never ending, absolute turnstile of sales pitches. Individuals who are telling you exactly what you want to hear. But you need to understand that that's not the reality of a lot of these things. They may help you pass the exam, and that's true. Remember though, passing the exam is not your goal. Your goal is to be able to actually become a practitioner, to understand things, to be able to do things and become that expert that you want it to be. Yes, passing the exam is the first step of going in that direction, but I want you to be aware of some of these snake oil salesmen because at the end of the day, a lot of them, could care less about you once they've got your money. They're saying, here's my videos, here's my course, do what you will, thanks for the money. And I've had some really great courses and some are better than others. And I'm not saying that every single individual who does courses out there is actually a snake oil salesman. There's some very, very dedicated, very interested individuals that truly want you to pass. But right now, there's so many individuals out there that are doing this, as well as the fact that so many are now AI generated with very too little effort being done in them at all. And they're trying to promise you the sun, moon, and stars. And at the end of the day, they're not really supportive once you give them their money. So do your research. Make sure that you're actually looking at who is actually going to help you in the best way possible. And remember, the core of this is your goal is not just to pass the exam. Yes, that's how you can show your knowledge. But at the end of the day, your goal is to make sure that this is your very first step to becoming the expert and the individual that you want to be. And yes, that is going to reap massive rewards for you. All right. Well, we've had a lot here that we've discussed today, and I really just kind of want to circle back on a few things as we close here. Remember that a certification is something for you to build upon. It should never be a crutch for your overall career. You never want that. It's not a good look for you, especially if you are trying to get into the market as a newbie. All right. The next one is make sure that your certifications are highlighting your skills. Your certifications are not your skills. They are your capabilities and they are the signal of what you are capable of doing in the future and capable of extending. So keep that in mind as well. All right, remember this as well. The last thing is certifications can fill your career with absolute power. I have seen careers go massively in the right direction because of the right certifications. I've also seen careers kind of dwindle and die off because individuals were just wanting to stack certifications and not really caring about actually doing the work. And that right there is what you want to make sure you're moving in the right direction for the right reason. So keep those in mind. And you know what? You're going to do great. I believe in you. You can always reach out to me if you have any questions regarding this topic. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. I really appreciate you joining and watching till the end. Thank you so much. And you know what? Have a great one. And we'll see you next time on Cryptid Cyber, where we are bringing you security beyond belief. Have a good one, guys.